of the offended nature spirits and the social sanctions against offenders. What you're seeing here is the redevelopment of environmentalism into a religion. It's deliberate. And much of the stuff that you see coming out of in the media, we do have environmental problems, don't get me wrong. But at the same time, most of what you see coming out of the media is nothing more than propaganda to indoctrinate us into this new religion. I'll show you in just a moment. Finally, societies dominated by Islam and especially Christianity have gone furthest in setting humans apart from nature and embracing a new value system that has converted the world into a warehouse of commodities for human enjoyment, and in the process, nature has lost its sacred qualities. So once again, you're beginning to see what Madame Helena Blavatsky said in her Secret Doctrine, is that Christianity is the problem, the root problem. Judaism and Islam have to be dealt with in order to bring in this new age of Aquarius, because nature has lost its sacred qualities. They have been doing this through what is known as the Earth Charter. The Earth Charter has been being developed for the last 30 years or so. It saw its first appearance at the Earth Summit in Rio de Janeiro in 1992, but it was so pantheistic that it could not be accepted. When you begin to say that the Earth is a living entity, that goes a little too far for even most nations to ascribe to. So they sent it back to committee, as it were, through a guy by the name of Maurice Strong, who was a very occult multi-millionaire, and Mikhail Gorbachev to rewrite this and to sanitize it to make it more palatable to the world. And it came out early in the 21st century. And it goes on to say that the Earth Charter, this is not the Earth Charter itself, but the description of the Earth Charter that was on his website in 1997. The Earth Charter is the articulation of a spiritual vision that reflects the universal spiritual values whose objective is to implement a radical change in humans' attitudes and values. When they say radical, they mean radical because it literally means turning our Western beliefs on their head and going back to this nature worship that they want to get us to. It is a people's charter that serves a universal code of conduct. So in other words, everybody has to do it, for ordinary citizens, educators, business executives, scientists, and even religious leaders. So there will be a time in the near future, I'm not sure when, in which Christianity, as historically known, biblical Christianity, will not be able to stay above ground. It will have to go underground, much like it was in the first 2 centuries of the Roman Empire. It's going to be that serious, because Christianity has to ascribe to this new pantheistic worldview if it's to survive as a church above the ground, where people can see it every day. This Earth Charter was brought to the World Summit on Sustainable Development in Johannesburg, South Africa in August and September of 2002. They wanted to basically get the sanctification or get the approval of the United Nations to put this in as a world ethics system is what they called it, but it really wasn't a world religion. They brought in what they call the Ark of Hope. The Ark of Hope is a knockoff of the Ark of the Covenant, and it has a tremendous number of occult symbolisms all over it. I'll talk about a couple of them. On the end cap of the Ark of Hope, you have this menagerie of animals stacked up pretty much in the shape of a pyramid, because a pyramid is a very, very dramatic occult symbol. And what we're seeing right here, the 2 crocodiles, are the wise ones. They're the guardians in this occult symbology. The owl at the very top is an owl of wisdom, and she's a goddess in occult linguistics. Then you have the triangle itself, which makes up the Lord Buddha, the Master Dual Kal. Alice Bailey said, wrote all of her books. Dual Kal is an ascended master, according to what she says, and is the writer of her 26 books. We call him a demon. The final leg of this triangle is the avatar of synthesis, which brings everything together in what's called the Son of God. Not the S-O-N of God, but the S-U-N of God, being the source of life. You also have on the front of the Ark of Hope this symbology again of animals, but they're in a circle. And you can see the circle, and the circle of life is the reincarnation concept that is so prevalent within most pantheistic societies. And what we have here is literally the manifestation of the circle of life in which we, as we reincarnate into one level into another, gradually ascend into humanity as well, and eventually into being an ascended master according to their theology. Finally, the Earth Charter itself was brought to the United Nations, and it starts out like this. We stand at a critical moment in Earth's history, a time when humanity must choose its future. There's no option. We have to choose which way we're going. It goes on to say, humanity is part of a vast evolving universe. Earth, our home, is alive with a unique community of life. Notice how they have softened this, that the Earth is alive, to one in which the Earth is alive with a unique community of life. It's still there. The pantheistic undertones are still there, except an unknowledgeable person probably would not understand that this truly is pantheism. It was brought to the United Nations on the World Summit on Sustainable Development in September of 2002, and was brought up for acceptance into the United Nations as the United Nations doctrine. But you know what? God is in control. And this is the one thing that we can be sure of. In Psalms 2, 1 through 6, it says, "Why do the nations conspire and the peoples plot in vain? The kings of the earth take their stand, and the rulers gather together against the Lord and against his anointed one. Let us break their chains," they say, "and throw off their fetters." This is exactly what they're trying to do, is to shove God off into the corner and make Satan their king. The one enthroned in heaven laughs, and the Lord scoffs at them. Then he rebukes them in his anger and terrifies them in his wrath. There will be a day when the Lord will take vengeance on these people. God is in control, and he's not going to allow anything to happen until it's in his time frame for it to happen. That's why I think he used the 3 or 4 of us to stop the Convention on Biological Diversity from being ratified in the U.S. Senate, because it was not yet time for that to happen. What happened was that the summit failed. At the very last moment, there were several hundred of us talking with the State Department representatives, convincing them that this Earth Charter was very, very dangerous and had to be stopped at any cost. And the United States was able to get the language pulled from the final consensus document just a few hours before it was finally printed and given to the delegates. It came that close, but yet God is faithful. It did not happen. If it had happened, they would have been bringing out immediately the draft of the International Covenant on Environment and Development. And this is a treaty, much like the Convention on Biological Diversity, that puts into teeth, legally, everything that's within the Earth Charter. The Earth Charter itself does not force a nation to do anything. But at the same time, this International Covenant on Environment and Development does. It would force us, literally, in every aspect of our lives, to conform to their pantheistic vision of what government ought to be and how you and I should behave. It would result in a radical, radical, radical change of our lifestyles, because we would no longer have the lifestyles that we have right now, because we're not sustainable. Literally not sustainable. There's nothing about our society that's sustainable. We would have to go back another 100 years, probably eliminate 2/3 of the Earth's population to become sustainable according to their vision of things. And we're seeing this literally being brought to fruition in major media throughout the United States, both in television, printed form, global warming, ozone depletion, you name it. It's called the greening of America and the world. It's a new religion, and we're buying into it whole cloth, even many of our denominations. Again, does that mean that we shouldn't protect the environment? Not at all. We should. We have a stewardship responsibility. But the fact is that most of what you're seeing on television and the news is nothing but a hoax. And I wish I would be able to talk to you a little bit more in detail about some of those things, but unfortunately, right now, we just don't have the time. I do have many videos and books and so forth on this very subject if you want to take advantage of them. So let's go back to the Freemasonry theosophy, Eastern and Western mysticism concept, and see what happened. It took its form in the Illuminati. Again, this is another conspiracy concept, but it has its roots in historical fact. It probably doesn't exist as Illuminati anymore. It's evolved into many other things, but the fact is it did exist. As we heard Carol Quigley talk about it in